It had thrills. It had heart. It had tech, emotion, and above all else, it had consistency. Why Flow Show NYC 2013 was the best performance lineup I've ever seen. Drex here from Drex Factor Poi, sharing with you the love of poi spinning and flow arts to benefit your body and brain. And today, I want to talk about one of my favorite flow dance concerts of all time. Before we dive in though, I just want to give a quick shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Fire Mecca, Flow Fests, Flow Toys, Juggling Calling, Pyroterra Light Toys, Spinballs, and Ultrapoi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all of these awesome companies and the work that they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by checking out the links that I've got down in the description of this video. And special thanks to the non-business friend of the channel, Pekha Pekkonen. Thank you so much for supporting my channel, my work, and my mission. I have seen a lot, and I do mean a lot, of flow arts performances in my day. From galas and showcases at flow festivals to intriguing uses of prop manipulation in traditional dance concerts, there's been a lot of inspiring stuff I've gotten to see over the years. But I think it's safe to say that my favorite lineup of all time was the Flow Show New York City back in 2013. For those of you that don't know, the Flow Show is a project that works to bring flow and circus arts into a more traditional theater context and mount a production of flow arts performances as though it's a modern dance concert. The Flow Show has had multiple locations all across the United States, from San Francisco to Chicago, New York, and Boston. I've gotten to perform in it both in New York City as well as in San Francisco, and it really felt like an honor to be a part of it. But of all the lineups I've seen or been a part of, the 2013 New York City Flow Show was without a doubt the standout of the bunch. And given that we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of this show, I wanted to commemorate it by talking a little bit about what I thought made it so special and why, even at the time, I felt like I was watching something revolutionary. Real quick, if you dig content on flow arts and poi spinning, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to see more of my work. Thanks so much, and let's talk more about this show. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been some incredible performances at other flow shows, including the one in New York City. Some particular standouts in my mind have been Nikki Evers' fantastic inner monologue performance from Flow Show San Francisco this same year, or my friend Jexie's fan ballet fusion piece from the New York City Flow Show just the year before. They're all good, but in my mind what made the 2013 lineup so good and so unique was the consistency of it. Every single piece was a pleasure to watch, if not an outright banger. It's hard to make a lineup that consistent. When you're looking at more than a dozen acts to fill in time, making sure that each of them is really bringing something special and unique to the table can be a challenge. But in my mind, the New York show in 2013 really pulled it off. Granted, I haven't seen every flow show, but of those that I've seen, this one was definitely the most consistent. That said, I also want to talk about three pieces in this show that really stuck out to me and that I felt like really made it something special. These were the three that really stuck with me and inspired me in ways that I was not expecting. I'll share them with you, and you can find links to them down in the description. Let's start with Fission Fusion by New York-based performance troupe Enchanted. Part of what makes this piece fascinating to me is that it does a lot of things that I find kind of tedious in other flow arts performances, but actually makes them work in context here. Frequently, flow arts performances involve the performers simply standing in one place while they perform a sequence of tricks, then moving to another place and standing there while they perform a sequence of a few more tricks. Here, this approach works, however, because the performance is all about the development of the atomic bomb, and it totally reads to the audience. Right from the opening moment of the performers breathing with the accompanying song's percussive vocalizations, it's made clear that this is a piece that will be as much about the locations of the performers as it is what they're actually doing in those locations. Some particular highlights include this beautiful moment in which the upstage fan spinners gradually rise and increase their volume, recalling the mushroom clouds of the atom bomb, or the chaotic bit near the beginning in which the performers pantomime the process of atoms splitting apart. Given how static so much else in this performance is, this brief moment of lateral movement always really stuck out to me as a fun and understated moment of movement that broke up an otherwise static section of choreography. I think even at the time this was choreographed, this sort of machine-like fan movement had already become something of a cliche, but here it totally works to suggest the machinery of the bomb clicking into place. And of course, there's the climax with a skull left amid the rubble of the remaining fans. It was really a stark moment moment to bring home the realities of the device that the performance explored. An empty stage fading out on just this visual? Chef's kiss. Frequently, I try to steer away from the idea of doing prop performance as novelty. That is, that the props are meant to represent another prop rather than being an extension of the performer. But this piece did that, quite possibly with more meaning than any other I've ever seen. And speaking of things that I try to stay away from, there's also the world of multi-prop. And the next piece that really stood out to me does that fantastically. This is Reanimation by New England-based performance troupe Fire Magic, and it is a retelling and update of the Sorcerer's Apprentice section of Fantasia. If there's one thing I love more than anything else about this piece, it's how much it trusts the audience. At more than 6 minutes long, it was easily the longest piece of the entire show, and it didn't waste a single section of its runtime. The story, if you're unfamiliar, is that of a magician that casts a magic spell that brings an inanimate object to life to be their servant, which at first seems like a great idea and then rapidly spins out of their control. The first half of this piece's runtime, which is honestly as long as many of the other pieces in this show, simply involves Josette Borman's sorcerer learning to cast her spell and gathering the ingredients for it. She's definitely studied a lot of theatrical blocking because, though not much actually happens for these first few minutes, the piece never feels like it drags. In particular, I love that it's accessible enough for the audience to understand clearly what's going on, while at the same time including some great inside baseball gags like her performing shoulder reels or anti-spins with her spellbook. She also gets a great solo with a long string leviwand that, you guessed it, is her magic wand. In any other piece, I think that choice would feel like a bit of a cliche, but here it really works. In some ways, I think leaning on the campiness of using what started off as an illusionist's tool as a prop for a performance about magic is a part of what makes it so endearing. Eventually, we do get to the section where she animates a steel golem played by collaborator Seth Hill, who takes to the stage with a massive dragonstaff and radically changes the tone and energy of the performance. Where Josette's section was largely a rote retelling of The Sorcerer's Apprentice with the same music and everything, Seth's animation comes with it a sudden jolt into more contemporary and aggressive electronic music and hip-hop influenced choreography as opposed to the modern or ballet-tinged dance that Josette exhibited. It is exactly what the piece needed to feel more fresh and contemporary, updating the story for a present-day audience. This was an incredibly creative use of the conventions around living statue performances, and I love how Seth utilizes a good deal of locking technique to reinforce the artificiality of the character he's playing here. Of course, this story never goes well, and Seth's character eventually tires of the degree of control Josette exerts over him. He winds up to take a swing at her, and she reverses the spell just in time, breathing a sigh of relief at having avoided her creation, taking down his creator. And you know what? The storytelling is crystal clear. The prop spinning reinforces both the characters on display as well as supporting the story. This was fantastic. One of the most fun Flow Arts acts I think I've ever seen. And our final stop on this nostalgia tour, it's my single favorite stage poi piece of all time, Heavy by Justin and Christina. I've already done an entire reacts video on this piece if you want to hear my thoughts about it, but the Cliff's Notes basically break down as such. I think that this is the finest bit of prop-based storytelling that I have ever seen in all of my years in the Flow Arts. This piece uses partner poi to tell the story of a couple locked in an abusive relationship. Justin coldly ignores his partner's pleas for warmth, support, and contact, only to become physically violent as the piece progresses on. And everything about this piece supports its storytelling. The choice to set it to Heavy by Florence and the Machine, the tattered costumes conjuring to mind a couple scarred from years of fights and abuse, the use of partner poi in itself as a metaphor for the difficulties of a relationship and how, even when you're totally in sync with your partner, it can look like an enormous struggle. Oh my god, I love this piece so much. It's still incredible to me just how clearly their characters read and how difficult and simultaneously beautiful the story is to watch. You genuinely feel Christina's pain as Justin both literally and metaphorically pushes her away and breaks down her spirit. They use slides and pivots as a metaphor for this couple constantly trying to find each other and failing to connect in their relationship. But without a doubt, the coup de grace is the climax of this piece. and it's a doozy. After a slow boil that's seen this couple push each other away and teetering on the edge of violence, we're given an uncomfortably long pause in the action before the violence finally explodes between the couple. Justin and Christina use the fact that a partner poi trick called the Denver almost invariably winds up looking like a battle between partners as a feature instead of a bug. It's almost more horrifying to see the fight play out via poi instead of via stage combat. In the same way that Alfred Hitchcock would find a variety of ways to suggest violence rather than explicitly depicting it, the use of this metaphor almost makes this fight seem even more terrible given the use of partner poi as a means of protecting the audience from it. By the end, Christina's character is deeply wounded, perhaps both psychologically as well as physically, and the piece ends in the most dramatic fashion possible. After everything we've seen, Christina shows her vulnerability and injury simultaneously with a trust fall. A few steps later, Justin himself collapses under the weight of what he's done. Ugh. My heart. Even though there were other pieces that were a part of this show that did a great job of telling a story, this one really stood out to me as high art because it did something that I think a lot of good art is supposed to. It makes us uncomfortable. So frequently, art is simply an escape, a way to let go of our burdens for a few minutes and just be entertained. As well it should be. I think if we didn't have this aspect of art in our lives, we would all go crazy. Our thoughts and emotions need a rest on occasion. But that's also why art has such a responsibility to carry with it messages. Because it's when we give our thoughts and emotions a rest that we are most open, vulnerable, and available to receive messages that may change our view of the world and make us rethink aspects of ourselves. Heavy told an incredibly difficult story in an art form that works very hard to stay light, fun, and accessible. It did so clearly and unambiguously, and in the process, showed us that partner poi can be a perfect storytelling vehicle for talking about conflict. And that's why I think it's one of the greatest pieces I've ever seen. These 3 performances were just a small taste of the many acts at that year's Flow Show. If you can find videos of other performances from that year, please give them a watch. As my old boss from college would say, there ain't a shithook in the bunch. I think this was the only show I've ever been in where I made a habit to sit in the audience and literally watch all of it when I wasn't prepping for my own piece. Even then, I knew I was watching something tremendously special, and I knew I would treasure the memories of it for a long time to come. I kind of always hoped that that show was a portent of big things to come, but unfortunately I feel like that never entirely came to be. But there's no reason that it can't now. See if those pieces inspire anything in your own work, and who knows, maybe someday I'll be talking about the pieces that you write with the same reverence that I have for these pieces and this show. And straight up, a big thank you to the entire cast and crew of the Flow Show New York City that year, and to Fund the Flow Arts for putting on the Flow Show in the first place. You all delivered something truly magical, and the memories of it stick with me to this very day. Well done, all. What was your favorite lineup from any Flow Arts performances you've seen? Leave me a comment and let me know. This video would not have been possible without the kind support of all of these awesome people right here. These are my Flow patrons over on Patreon. They and the people listed down in the description helped to make this video and all the videos on this channel possible. Thank you one and all for your very generous support. If you out there watching aren't currently a supporter, but you'd like to become one, you can do that by heading on over to patreon.com/drexfactorpoi and signing up. You can find that link down in the description or up in the cards if you are watching on YouTube. There, you'll get access to a whole host of awesome rewards, and even better than that, you'll be helping me out in my mission to bring poi spinning and flow arts to the whole wide world and help people connect with their brains and their bodies. So, go check that out. Please and thank you. And if you're hungry for more videos where I talk about amazing performances, check out my React series where I take a look at performances from Mel, G, give a full accounting of Justin and Christina's wonderful performance, and more. You can find a link to a playlist of those videos down in the description as well as up on screen if you are watching on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to get out and flow today, and I'll see you with a new video real soon. Peace.